Hello everyone, if you're new here, thanks so much for joining. German idioms is just one of those things which I think I will never really master. Just as I think I'm sort of getting the hang of it and I've really got a lot in my sort of vocabulary Schublade, I hear some new phrases or idioms that I have never ever heard before in my life, like Lügen haben kurze Beine or mit ihnen kann man Pferde stehlen. Idioms are of course highly personal and highly regional, and these are then, in my opinion and my experience, idioms that Germans cannot live without. And what I mean by that is there is no really other, or there's no better way to articulate the expression than to just use the idiom. I'm going to try and give the equivalent English idiom. I think I've managed to do it with all but one. So the first one we have is die Kirche im Dorf lassen. Die Kirche im Dorf lassen is just one of those things that you have to learn. I don't think you can really sort of guess the meaning given the context. It's quite a difficult one to wrap your head around. But die Kirche im Dorf lassen is used basically to mean exaggerate or to get carried away with, and it's often used in that negative form, as in do not exaggerate or do not get carried away. Now, this is not 100% accurate, but I would venture to equate this with hold your horses. Hold your horses does have sort of the meaning of to wait or to stop, but it also means to, calm down and maybe don't, over-exaggerate or get carried away. The idiom originates when the church was really the heart of the village or the heart of the community, and if you've ever been to Germany, you will know that there are hundreds, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of churches in Germany. You could potentially just say übertreib nicht oder komm doch runter, but it just doesn't really quite have the same weight to it as lass doch die Kirche im Dorf. Die Daumen drücken. This one really needs no explanation. It is exactly the same as fingers crossed in English. As in good luck, or I'm rooting for you, or I really hope you get the thing that you want. The crossing of the fingers seems to have its roots in Christianity when it actually originated with the two index fingers crossing, and it's now used often by children to, tell a white lie or to render a promise invalid when they put their crossed fingers behind their back. Die Daumen drücken apparently also has sort of superstitious roots, as in the thumb was considered sort of a lucky finger, and to press the thumb down was a way of capturing demons so they don't hurt other people. And Daumen drücken is used in many other European countries, including Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Sweden, and even Russia and South Africa, whereas crossing of the fingers is used more in the English-speaking world, as well as places like France, Spain, and Belgium. Although maybe you can help me to corroborate this. Let me know in the comments where you are from and whether you use fingers crossed or Daumen gedrückt. This would be very interesting to find out if this is actually true. Über den Schatten springen. This is a beautiful idiom, one of my favorites, because it just brings beautiful imagery that pops into my head when I hear this. And literally it means to jump over your shadow, which I think is funny because it is an impossibility, but it can be really very well translated as to get out of your comfort zone in English. Which brings me on to today's sponsor, which is Lingoda. I mentioned in a previous video that I was sort of toying around with the idea of starting to learn a new language, and I was not sure if I wanted to do French or Italian. And this is where Lingoda comes into it. So Lingoda is an online language school, and I've been learning French with them for the past few weeks. They offer German, French, Spanish, and English, as well as business English, and it's really all from the comfort of your own home. So it's done over Zoom. And what I really like about the classes at Lingoda is that they are, first of all, taught by native speakers and certified teachers, but not just that, the class sizes are really small, which for me is really important. So there's never more than 5 students in the class. The classes that I took, there was actually only 2 to 3 students in the class, which, it has positives and negatives. It means that you can really take advantage and ask as many questions as you like. Obviously, it puts the spotlight on you a little bit, so you cannot hide behind anyone else. You are really sort of challenged to actually try to speak. There's also, of course, a ton of resources so that you can actually learn a lot by yourself. It's encouraged that you prepare for the lesson. So there's always lesson materials, there's always vocabulary to go over, because the lesson is really there for you to speak. And you can revise by yourself. I found the flashcard function really helpful for word retention. The great thing about this flashcard tool is that really only words that are going to come up in that lesson or words that you've just learned will come up in the flashcard. So it's really a great way to shift all those words that you've learned from your short-term memory into your long-term memory by repetition. Click the link in the description below to get 20 euros off your deposit and to find out all the details about the language sprint that they are currently running. I'll give you a hint. It's all about consistency. And now, back to the next German idiom. Ich stehe auf dem Schlauch. If you are staying on the Schlauch with anything that I've just said, check the description. All the information is there. Ich stehe auf dem Schlauch is literally, I stand on the hose. And it's used to express confusion. But if you sort of literally imagine what's actually being said, if somebody is standing on your hose pipe while you're trying to water the garden, it means that the water is not going to get through. So it also kind of expresses a sort of mental blockage that you're not just following. So I would actually equate it with the English, I'm not following you, or sorry, I didn't catch that, basically just to express that you didn't understand and you're not really following the train of thought or conversation. Einen Kater haben. This one again needs very little explanation, but there is, in my opinion, no other way to say this. It means to have a hangover. Literally, it means a male cat. I still, to this day, don't really understand where that came from. But in my opinion, there is no other way to say this, so you have to learn this phrase if you want to express a hangover. There's only one way to say it. Ich habe einen Kater. Das Gelbe vom Ei sein. I absolutely love this phrase as well. And when it comes to translating this into English, there is a whole array of options. Basically, this just means to be the absolute best, as in the bee's knees, the cream of the crop, something to write home about, the best thing since sliced bread. It can, of course, also be used in the negative to describe something that is not so great, as in mein neues Handy is leider nicht das Gelbe vom Ei, or my new phone is unfortunately nothing to write home about. Wie Kraut und Rüben. I absolutely love this phrase, but it may be a little bit outdated. I definitely hear it a lot, but maybe that says more about me than it does about you. It's basically used to mean something that is very chaotic, disorderly, or just a mess. And I would translate this as topsy-turvy in English. Kraut und Rüben comes from the fact that turnips and cabbage used to be, I think still are, planted together in the same field, kind of willy-nilly, so there's not too much order in the whole process. So in the planting, also in the harvesting, and also in the cooking. So Kraut und Rüben are often kind of cooked together. Die Beine in dem Bauch stehen. This is another one of those things where you just cannot guess what this is meant to be meaning. The literal translation of this is the legs are standing in the belly or the stomach. So what exactly could this be referring to? Or basically it is used to mean that you have been waiting for a very long time. So if you kind of think about it, it does make a lot of sense. If you're standing at the bus stop outside in winter for hours on end, like everything starts to hurt. And it does sometimes feel like your feet and your legs are kind of breaking and then your upper body is just slowly like sinking down into your legs. So I really get where this comes from. I unfortunately could not really find an accurate English translation for this German idiom. So it's one of those things where I really don't think there's any other way to express this feeling in German. That's why Germans cannot live without it. In English, we do have a lot of phrases to do with time and waiting, like bite the bullet, hold your horses, patience is a virtue and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't really encapsulate the meaning of ich stehe mir die Beine in den Bauch. Jemanden über den Tisch ziehen, to pull somebody over the table, or maybe in English you would translate this as to mop the floor with somebody. This means to rip someone off, to exploit them, or to mercilessly beat them, maybe in your favorite board game. There's a game where you hook your fingers together, elbows on the table, and you try to pull somebody over the table, literally. Whoever manages to pull their opponent over the table wins. So you can see exactly where that phrase comes from. Das ist eine Apotheke. Literally, that is a pharmacy. Now, this one might not be strictly and sort of an official German idiom. It's a little bit obscure, but it's one of the ones that I heard a lot when I first moved here, and I just did not understand what it means. But I think given the current climate of rampant inflation, it is very relevant. because it is used to describe something that is hugely overpriced, hugely expensive. Or in English, we might say that costs an arm and a leg. It is a little bit different because das ist eine Apotheke is used only to refer to like businesses or shops. You wouldn't really use this to refer to a product or a service. As I said at the beginning, idioms are highly personal and highly regional. These are some of the ones which I think are totally irreplaceable and that Germans would really struggle to express themselves properly if they didn't have these idioms. What are some of your favorites? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.